Okay, Christina here to listen to some music, and today we have two selections to listen to. Orchid House and Chapel Bell by TALITHA RISE. So this group is definitely a group I had not heard of before, and actually they're relatively new on the scene, especially compared to all the prog rock and heavy metal and grunge that I've been doing lately on the channel. They're from the UK, and the main singer-songwriter is Jo Beth Young, and the album that these two songs came from, the title is An Abandoned Orchid House, and it was released in 2018. So like I said, relatively new. So this will be fun to get to know a new artist. But we're not just getting to know artists here, we're also taking a close look at the music itself. So, I am a professional, classically trained musician, instrumentalist, vocalist, composer, and professor. So we dive in to the music and see all those little details, see how it was composed, the instrumentation, we take a look at the lyrics, maybe some theory-informed analysis and some instrument demos, but also how do we relate to this music? Why do we like it, or why do we not like it? So I've already heard some really good things about this group, and I can't wait to experience it myself. So no more delay. Let's listen. Okay, here we go. This is Orchid House. I'm already getting some goosebumps here. That was very, very mesmerizing, really dreamy, and the words so far were really simple. That there's an abandoned orchid house, which that in itself, both of those words are really yummy. Orchid house. And nobody lives there, nobody's there. The sound of the music sort of represents that. The resonance and the echo, and there's this interplay between the higher tones and the lower tones, which I always really love that. Just really taking advantage of settling in one area or the other. And so I feel like a lot of the song is settling up here in the higher tones. Just like the sound of the guitar is more treble up here, and her voice obviously is very high range. But then there are these rumblings, and it almost feels kind of ominous, cavernous. But I think, again, it needs to be there because they're talking about an abandoned place. It might be echoey in there, but there are just all sorts of different sounds happening. I love all the sound effects. I love music that has that glitter, sparkly sense to it. And then already the way the voice is playing out, it sort of mimics that a little bit. She has some interesting turns and ornamentations and flourishes in the melody line. So to me, things are sort of still up in the air, like question mark, like, where are we headed? What style is this? What story are we getting ready to tell? But that mysteriousness is sort of the excitement with it. So let's keep going. I'm going to back it up a little bit so we can get into this bigger part. It was getting really exciting. This is this is sort of wondrous. It's still mysterious. It's still very mysterious. The face in the window. And of course, my attention was drawn to the strings. So I'm hearing a violin. Am I hearing also a lower stringed instrument like cello or string bass? So maybe there were some studio musicians that were involved. I know I've done some recordings like that before. String players that just kind of put down some string lines and then they work it in to the mixing and producing of the song. And if you add layers of resonance to it, that is sort of what it ends up sounding like. And so I'm picking up on some of those tones and timbres, and it's just really, really, well, first of all, it's beautiful, but it's very fitting. Okay, so something is happening with my listening of her voice. It plays into the mesmerizing quality of this. At first, it seemed like her voice was going to be more simple and innocent, but as she has gone on, she's added more and more layers to it, not just with the harmonies, and I heard some vocal harmonies in there, and maybe even some harmonies with the violin, but so many ornamentations being added in, and sometimes a play with the chest voice and the head voice, like passing through passaggio there, for the break in the voice. And then, I don't know, stylistically, there's a traditional sort of folk sound happening, but it's sort of more Middle Eastern. It in itself is mesmerizing. So I'm sort of being charmed by this, along with all the resonance. This is really beautiful. So back it up a little bit again, and let's hear it on out. Where are we going with this story, right?
Just what was being said.
Okay, well, I was saying I was looking forward to this experience, and that was a genuinely beautiful experience. I was completely caught up in it. I felt like it was pulling me. There was sort of this sing-songy feel to it. Bum, bum, bum. And it was represented by a lot of different voices. So the drums were carrying that for a while, and then the more bass string sound was carrying it. And then there were some other sort of otherworldly sounds that carried it a little bit or echoed within it. It's so beautiful though, but at the same time, there's this sadness to it and sort of a depth to it. And I'm still not even entirely sure what it's about yet. I do have the lyrics and I will check them out in just a second, but just from the representation from the music itself, that is what I am left with. I do know it has something to do with the word abandoned, but I'm not sure if it's a place that's been abandoned or a person, or maybe both, a combination of both. Maybe that's part of the story. But I definitely am picking up on that vibe. And I feel like whatever the story was, it kept spinning all the way to the very end. What's interesting though is at the very end, it seemed to get more longing, like someone trying to be happy, like trying to reflect on memories and focus on the good memories and not the bad ones maybe. But even up to the very, very, very bitter end, like, so I'm always big on how songs are ended. This one really revved up and then it had to unwind somehow. And I feel like it did that pretty naturally. And there was a lot to unwind. We had a pretty big knot wound up of different sounds, the different layers, and her voice was just sort of calling out and crying out more and more, both good and bad. And it all kind of unwound well, but then what was left, there was this little, it was 2 notes forming a major third, which is just 3 notes away. So like a space to a space or a line to a line on the staff. And it was very distant, but it was there, like a little glimmer of hope. So I'm going to actually start at the end because I was impressed with what was happening towards the end, but then I really liked how we were left with those little tiny overtones. I don't know how intentional or important that was, but to me, it stood out. It was a glimmer of light and hope to sort of hang on to. So let's see if we can find that. Sometimes it's these little teeny tiny details that grab us, you know, and this is one for me anyway. See, it's all wound up. All of the voices could be equal at any time. They're all being brought in. Okay, unwinding, unwinding. Oh, there goes the drums. Oh, one more bass. The glitter and sparkle. There. Bum, bum, bum. Those 2 little notes at the end. Bum. That was just really meaningful for me. Okay, let's go back to the beginning and see where we started. It's always fun to do. It starts with the sparkle. It's setting up the location here for our story. Oh. The suspended cymbal. Was that a gong? Tam-tam? And so there's the guitar there, and it has the bass notes in there with it, the lower notes, but there's a focus of the upper end. And there she is. The distant harmonies.
I can see by the eyes on his tiles and the floorboards beneath.
Okay. All right, right, so now I'm also picking up on more of the words. I love when that happens again. I always say I'm a music first person and then lyrics. And so if all of a sudden the lyrics stand out to me, I love that experience. I'm like, oh, that's what the lyrics first people sound like. Okay, so I started to be a lyrics first person there. I was getting pulled in by the vocalist, by her voice, by how she was delivering the words. She really lingers on some of those words and really plays with the pronunciation of those words. It's very unique. Let's go back and see what she does. It's very intentional.
Nobody lives there. I can see by the eyes on his tiles and the floorboards bare.
There, the boards bare. So in traditional diction, it would be boards bare. And so the fact that she's closing off boards bare just a little bit, I mean, that could be an accent from her region, but often when singers sing, they try to eliminate their accents, and there's just sort of this general accepted way of pronouncing things when you sing. I think that what is happening here is an artistic choice, and it could be based on her natural accent. But it's not overly done. There are some vocalists that do that, and you can tell it's an act. This seems more natural, that natural artistic process. Very cool. All right, I need to take a look at the lyrics. I was catching them, but I want to verify a little bit. Orchid House. An empty orchid house. Nobody lives there. I can see by the eyes on his tiles and the floorboards bare. The eyes on his tiles. So is the house the main character then? The orchid house. So it's like a greenhouse, right? Ah, nobody lives there. Ah, nobody who cares. So it's in disrepair. An owl that speaks at night, and he takes your pride. Like you've seen his words fall out of line. So we have a new character introduced. So is this house now the owl's house? Nobody lives there. So maybe not. I saw his face at the window and I knew just what was being said. Okay, and then count the hours. Okay, so one word that stood out in my mind, not a word that I heard, but a word that was coming to mind as I was listening to this song is the word time. That sing-songy bum, bum, bum. I was picturing like a clock ticking back and forth. A big clock, a big scary, almost old grandfather clock, like standing there in an abandoned house or something, and it doesn't work anymore, but when you look at it you can sort of picture when it used to work, and you know just how time slips by. When that grandfather clock used to work, what did that house look like? Who was there hearing it tick by? And so it says then, count the hours, count the hours, count the hours of decay. Interesting. Okay. And then I didn't catch on to what this last line was, but it repeated 4 times, like loaded guns. So is this facing humanity, facing mortality, facing abandonment? Wow. And it doesn't necessarily seem like it was a sudden abandonment. This seems like the kind that can happen over a long amount of time, whether we're aware of it or not. Sometimes things change, and they've changed for a long time, and we just haven't realized it. It takes us a while to catch up. So, all right. I like the owl in there. There's so much room for interpretation here. And I think the music speaks for itself pretty well, but then you still have room to add your own flavor to it. So, a couple of spots I wanted to look at. Okay, this is where the violin first comes in, I think. Ooh. And there's a little modal usage there. Bum, bum, bum. It should be yum, bum, 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 bum. But instead it goes yum, bum, 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 bum. That's really, really neat. It was very surprising. I was like, oh, okay. That changes the story here. Let's back that up and hear it again. That's really neat. The echo with it. There. The crack in her voice. Oh, I love that. The crack in her voice is like the plucking of the guitar in the background too. Everything is just so well complemented in this. And even then how softly the percussion is added in. You have to be careful with a dreamy piece like this to add in percussion, to add in the drums, because it can be overpowering, but the shuffle with it is just right. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. Here.
Oh, just what was being said.
So again, we have that high note up there, bum, and then we have bum, bum. There's So we have the ticking clock, and then we have the longing line with the modes in there. Beautiful. Okay. And then we get into this new spot where we change the beat. So before it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now it's 1 and 2 and 3. It definitely changes, and I think we needed that. Otherwise it would have been too much of the same. But let's go back and hear that transition. 5, 6. Lovely violin solo. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That might be what it is. And here's some lower voices in there. Yeah, so we went from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1 and 2 and, or 1, 2 and 3 and 4, and it just, there was a definite change there, and it really set us up for the winding up at the end, for that knot that gets wound up, full of all of the voices getting ready to come back in. Okay, you know I have to take a look at this violin solo. Okay, let's hear it again. So it starts on the G string, the lowest string, and you sort of heard it floating in from in the distance. Something like that. There. Yeah, that's great. So it's up on the high D, then it goes up to a high F. I don't think I got the descending line quite right, but it's still really beautiful here. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Fun to play too. Okay, so that's the first song. Now we're on to the next. Okay. I just had to get up and plug in the camera because it was on battery and the battery was about to run out. So now we're ready for the second song. This is Chapel Bell.
God, can you hear me now? I'm on the floor. Strike a match, watch it burn down. Haven't got many more. Will you walk with me in the valley so deep? Walk with me in I'll let him in, the only sacred door, the one no man had ever felt before. Will he let all my lions run? Now they're gone, there's nobody home. Where are we running to? Where are we running to?
Okay, we're headed into a thicker part of this here. All right, well, this is continuous in that it's the same voice. It's coming from the same soul, but it's different enough to be different. So that aesthetic is still present, but it's different enough to be interesting. So now we have piano. What I noticed right away is that it was playing with fourths and fifths. Okay, so what I mean by fourths and fifths, they're called perfect fourths and perfect fifths. And similarly to what I said with the third in the previous track, that's like a space to a space or line to a line. You just count up like 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3. So a fourth is when you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and a fifth is when you count up to 5. And so I heard some experimentation with those different intervals. So I think, yeah, D. So it started on the D, and we were hearing a perfect fifth up, which then we would want to hear this, but we heard and it gives us almost a false sense of security, but then sort of pushes our boundaries a little bit, makes us want to sort of expect the unexpected. So when I started hearing that, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure where this is going to go. I mean, I know it was focused on that opening note, which was a nice foundation there, but then where it played with the notes above and below that, it was a little unsteady, not in a bad way, like unsteady as in that's the story that we're telling for this song. It's just not predictable. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, already lots of lovely things though, but we need to hear more before I can say anything else. So let's back it up a little bit and keep going. It was about to change. Added some new sounds. It was really neat.
Will he let all my lions run? Now they're gone, there's nobody home. Where are we running to? 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 I know you're afraid of the dark, but the dark is what will make you grow. When I thought he wouldn't come for me, I surrendered deep into the sea. I shook all my demons out, and
Okay, it changed again, and it's a little lighter. It's in a major key, which is good because there was a big question there. I had a question mark in my head, like, there's a big question being offered here. Where are we running? Where are we going to? What's happening? And then it's talking about growing. That was a neat little place right there where she said the word grow, and it went up stepwise, and that was sort of a new thing that had happened, a new musical gesture there. But this running, this incessant question of where are we running to, that's very impactful, and I believe that the music was really representing that well. Okay, I loved all the echoes. I loved the harmonies and the voices. I loved, there's more of the resonance. There were some background tones that were sort of like harmonics. I heard one that was like, bum, bum. Maybe the violin line again. I'm not sure. And that mixed with the piano, to me, that's all we've got to stand on there. So that's the unsteadiness, the unpredictable feeling of this song. We're kind of up in the air. So have we landed now in this major section? Well, let's keep going and find out. I'll back it up and try to get into the major section again.
I had to make a friend of the dark. We lay in a cocoon. Fear came with us too. It blossomed and it bloomed into love and true love, 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 true love, true love, true love, true love, true love, true Where are we running to? Where are we running to? Where are we running to? Yeah, I know you're a good friend. I know you're a good friend in the dark. I know you're a good friend. You're a good friend.
Okay. It was another good ending. And playing with more of the fourths and fifths. That's all just fourths and fifths sort of stacked on one another. So we started with that, we ended with that. And there was a decrescendo at the end, but not a complete fade out, which is good because with this sort of upended song, as in the question marks and the dark, talking about the dark, we need to have that stability in it. The piano was that for us. Okay. The percussion in this piece, I heard sort of a bass drum sound, like maybe a symphonic bass drum sound. And then, yes, I know that a piano is sort of a mix between a percussion and a string instrument, and I think it sort of played both characters in this song. But the handbells, I think those were handbells. So I actually did hear a couple of rung handbell sounds at the end, but they were super distant, just a hint of them. But the more percussive clinky clanky sound, I have to say that that world that was built from that sound was really, really creative and beautiful. I was sort of taken by that. I'd like to just go to that spot again and hear it right now. It's one of those that you just want to hear again right away. Okay. And that lower sound, very, very ominous. That's maybe like the dark. Okay. Finger cymbal. Oh, that could still be a handbell as well. I don't know. A piano sound, harp sound. Question mark. Okay. See, there, I heard that little handbell. The bum bum. Okay, I wanted the handbell thing, the clanking thing to keep going. But that's okay. It's the kind of song where you listen to it again to get to that moment. I don't know. It seems like, talking about being in the dark, I feel like that moment, if the lights were to suddenly go out and it's pitch black and you can feel your eyes like trying to get wider to see something. I feel like that is what my eyes felt like in that moment, in the little more percussive clanking handbell moment. Like it was dark and I was trying to see more, but also not being afraid. And then they're talking about a good friend in the dark. It could have also been a moment of light in the dark, or if we're stuck in a dark place, to sort of remember what the sun or light feels like. Go ahead and use your imagination for that. That would make your eyes kind of get wider in the dark, I think. That was a beautiful moment. So I think one thing that was also really highlighted in this song was her voice. She has a really, really beautiful, pure tone, a true soprano tone. She doesn't rely too heavily on vibrato. It's a really small, narrow vibrato. But I think if it was any more than that, it would detract from the tone of her voice. So she sings more straight toned. And then the little bit of vibrating that comes in there is just a natural addition. But for the most part, it's that pure cathedral singing tone that she's able to create through the use of her diction, which is how you pronounce the words. Again, I think how she pronounces the words is very intentional and meaningful. And I think the words mean a lot to her. So she's sort of singing the words through her soul. But I did appreciate some of the clarity. So there was one spot, let's see if I can find it, where I heard a nice ending to a word. It was very appreciated. Okay, I think this is it. The T is good. To. Friend. We heard the D. You hear that soft little k, the K sound. And I also am appreciating how she executes the R's. So she's from the UK, but I don't know what her speaking accent is. But she has a unique way of pronouncing the R's. It's not quite ah, but it's not quite R. It's R, somewhere in the middle. And then we hear the at the very end, and it was even delayed for just a second, but the mic still picked it up in the recording. Love it. It's those little details that are very satisfying for a trained ear. And to me, and this does play a part in me being able to pick up on the lyrics so easily is that she's following through with her pronunciation. So speaking of the lyrics, let's go take a look. I caught a lot of them, but I'm just gonna make sure. Okay. God, can you hear me now? I'm on the floor. Strike a match, watch it burn down. Haven't got many more. Will you walk with me in the valley so deep? Walk with me in the... Okay. ... I let him in the only sacred door, the one no man had ever found before. Well, he let all my lions run. Now they're gone. There's nobody home. This sounds like heartbreak. Where are we running to? Where are we running to? Where are we running to? I know you're afraid of the dark, but the dark is what will make you grow. There was that moment with the grow. Interesting. So you have to have bad times to appreciate the good and to learn lessons. When I thought he wouldn't come for me, I surrendered deep into the sea. So we were pretty low here. I shook all my demons out. There is no doubt. Where are we running to? Where are we running to? Well, my friend was no friend in the dark, so I had to make a friend of the dark. Okay, I don't know if I caught that exactly. So we have to rely on ourselves sometimes. Make peace with what we're afraid of. Face our fears. We lay in our cocoon. The fear came with us too. It blossomed and it bloomed, okay, into love and truth. Love and truth, okay. That was the more major section, I believe. True love, okay. But where are we running to? Where are we all going? What is the purpose of all of this, all these lessons we learn? But it ends with, well, I know you're a good friend. I know you're a good friend in the dark. You're a good friend. So maybe the story ends with a happy note. I think it does. Lessons learned. Got hurt a little bit. Learned how to heal ourselves a little bit. Face our demons. And then sort of, I guess, a rebirth. Wrapping ourselves up in a cocoon and then coming out, the butterfly, being open to experiencing love. But still, where are we running to? What is the purpose of all of this, right? Well, appreciate your friends. You can be your own friend. Appreciate the friends that you actually have, the people that care for you and the people you care for. Yeah, we have to experience the good with the bad or we'll never experience anything. Well, again, this is still open to interpretation. This is what I got out of it. There were some literal things in there, but the rest was still open for the listener. And then you add in the beauty of the music itself, and it really was truly beautiful. The soaring lines in the voice, this sort of web that was created of the foundation with a very makeshift sort of percussion. In a lot of modern music, the drums, you have to have the drums there to form the foundation. And with this, it was with the piano and then later more sparkles there with the handbell moment. I think that's what those instruments were. I just think in general, there's an intent for beauty and then translating certain emotions into this music. And I think that those messages are very easily received. Okay, so that was Orchid House and Chapel Bell by TALITHA RISE. This was a great musical experience. Again, full of beauty, full of intent. There's a lot of depth to this music. And it's the kind of experience that when you hear these two songs, you really want to find out what is in between. So I am definitely curious to find out more about the rest of this album. I feel like the call to listen by this artist, by this group, that we are really trusting this music, like placing ourselves in the hands of this music. And sometimes you don't feel so comfortable or safe. You don't have to feel safe necessarily, but just there's something I feel like I can trust in the journey that we're going to be taken on through this music. Even though it might get pretty deep sometimes, I feel like it would be a genuine experience. So, will these 2 songs go on my playlist? Yeah, absolutely. And again, I want to hear more. So I will be doing that. I hope you all do that as well and that you have enjoyed this journey with me for these 2 songs. But for now, just remember that you don't have to be perfect. Just be okay. And keep listening.